The cafeteria buzzed with the usual chaos of lunchtime, clanging trays, loud chatter, and the occasional squeak of sneakers on tile. At the center of it all moved Ms. Clarice, the school's longtime lunch lady. With silver-streaked braids tucked neatly under a hairnet and a soft hum always on her lips, she carried herself with quiet dignity. But most students didn't see her that way. To them, she was just the lunch lady, someone to laugh at when her accent slipped, or when she handed out warm apple slices with a wink and a "bless your heart." A group of seniors sitting by the window mimicked her voice and snickered, nudging each other as she walked past. Trent, the star basketball player, laughed loudest, tossing his empty milk carton toward the trash with a smug grin. She missed the mockery, or maybe she didn't. Either way, she didn't react. She just kept smiling, kept humming, kept slipping extra tater tots onto the trays of kids who looked like they hadn't eaten much at home. In that noisy room, Clarice was both overlooked and underestimated. No one cared where she came from, what she knew, or what she'd given up to be there. To them, she was just part of the background. But that was about to change in a way no one saw coming. The school auditorium buzzed with anticipation. It was the final round of the regional logic and math challenge, and the pressure hung heavy in the air. Parents, teachers, and students filled the rows, eyes fixed on the stage where two teams stood frozen in front of a whiteboard. The last problem had just been revealed, a mind-bending logic puzzle that silenced even the confident ones. Coaches whispered nervously. The visiting professor from the state university furrowed his brow, clearly stumped. Minutes ticked by. Whispers turned into murmurs of doubt. Then, from the back of the room, a soft voice spoke, "May I take a look?" Heads turned. It was Ms. Clarice, holding a water pitcher, dressed in her lunchroom apron, standing beside the refreshments table. Some students snickered, thinking it was a joke. Others just stared, confused. The professor, flustered and out of options, gestured hesitantly toward the board. "Go ahead," he said. As she stepped onto the stage, murmurs spread like wildfire. The lunch lady? Was she serious? But her eyes were calm. No one knew what to expect. In a room full of doubt, Miss Clarice was the only one who wasn't afraid to try. Miss Clarice took the marker with steady hands and faced the whiteboard. The auditorium fell into an uneasy hush. She studied the puzzle quietly, lips moving as she pieced it together in her mind. Then, without hesitation, she began to write, simple lines at first, drawing connections, breaking down the riddle like a story unfolding. Her voice, soft but clear, guided the room through each step. She didn't just solve the problem. She taught it as she went, making it accessible, almost beautiful. Students leaned forward. Teachers exchanged glances. Even the guest professor began nodding, his eyes wide with recognition. The entire room, once full of smug doubt, was silent, captivated. When she placed the marker down and turned around, the board was filled with a solution so precise, so elegant, that no one could deny its brilliance. A beat of stunned silence passed, then a wave of applause erupted, awkward at first, then thunderous. Some stood. Others just stared, mouths slightly open, minds racing. The same students who laughed earlier now sat frozen, unsure what to feel. For the first time, they saw her, not as the lunch lady, but as someone extraordinary. In that moment, everything they thought they knew about Ms. Clarice shattered. After the applause died down and the crowd began to disperse, a strange hush lingered in the halls. Students whispered in clusters, casting glances toward the cafeteria doors. Ms. Clarice had already slipped away, back to her usual corner of the school. But this time, the principal came looking for her. He found her in the kitchen, scrubbing trays like nothing had happened. "Clarice," he said softly, "that was remarkable. Why didn't you ever tell anyone?" She smiled gently without stopping her hands. "Wasn't the point," she said. "Kids needed food more than I needed recognition." Hesitantly, he asked about her past. She paused, wiped her hands on a towel, and nodded. I had a full ride to MIT. Loved numbers. Still do. But when Mama passed, I was the oldest. My siblings needed someone, so I stayed. Got a job. Took care of them. Her words were simple, but they hung heavy in the air. She had traded prestige for responsibility, brilliance for family. And she had never complained. Outside the kitchen, a few students lingered, overhearing bits of the conversation. Trent stood among them, the smirk gone from his face, replaced with quiet shame. For the first time, they saw the weight behind her kindness, the strength behind her humility. She wasn't just a lunch lady. She was a quiet hero, and they had never even asked her name. Weeks passed, but what happened in the auditorium never faded. The story of Ms. Clarice spread through the school like wildfire, except this time, it wasn't laughter that followed her. It was respect. Students who once ignored her now greeted her by name. Some even stayed after lunch just to talk, asking her about numbers, life, or how she stayed so kind in a world that rarely was. A mural appeared on the cafeteria wall, painted by the art club, Clarice at the whiteboard, mid-solution, with a soft light around her and the words, "Wisdom wears many aprons." The school created a new after-school tutoring program, and asked her to lead it. She agreed, on one condition: every student who joined had to serve lunch at least once a month. "Humility comes before understanding," she said with a wink. Trent was the first to sign up. One afternoon, he stayed late, watching her work the kitchen. "I never knew," he said quietly. She just smiled. "Now you do." As the sun set through the cafeteria windows, laughter rang out, not mocking, but shared. Clarice still served food, still hummed her gospel tunes, but now she was more than seen, she was honored. And in every tray she handed out, there was something extra, not just a meal, but a reminder that greatness often hides in the overlooked corners of the world.